Hey, what's up, y'all? This is Lewis Speaks 2025, and I want to talk to you all today about the importance of creating therapeutic distance away from wounded relatives. You definitely, in some cases, it's not safe to be around certain relatives because you realize that they are wounded. You realize that they have no desire to heal. You realize that they're still stuck in that old school mindset of you can't teach an old dog new tricks. And so what ends up happening is that if you continue to stay within these unhelpful spaces, you start to realize that a resentment starts to build within you. You realize that after numerous conversations about how their behavior has affected you, after numerous requests for them to stop doing the behavior that jeopardizes a relationship with you, you realize that now your absence has to speak. Now you have to distance yourself in order to protect your peace. And it's unfortunate because the truth is you want a closer relationship with your loved ones. You want to be able to trust them. You want to be able to confide in them. You want to be able to come to them with your issues and concerns. But a lot of times it's not safe. It's not safe mentally. It's not safe spiritually. It's not safe emotionally. And in some cases, it's not even safe physically. Some parents, they can be abusive. That's the reality. They can be physically abusive, they can be emotionally abusive. And so you have to create distance in order to protect your peace. And this is not as a punishment, this is therapeutic distance with the intent of protecting yourself and maintaining your personal boundaries. I realize that my parents are wounded. Some of my relatives on both sides, they're also wounded. I don't want to say toxic because toxic is harsh. I want to dignify them. Although they have engaged in behaviors that have not dignified me, I want to offer them dignity. And I also want to extend the invitation to change. And so what I say is wounded. I say wounded because a lot of times these behaviors are based on past traumas. A lot of my family is they're traumatized. They have a lot of wounds that they mask. They put on veneers. And it all sounds good. They like to intellectualize and they like to, you know, deflect. But when you go deeper, you realize that there's some trauma there, some wounding that they have not yet addressed. And when you bring it to their attention, see me, I'm a counselor. I'm a counselor by trade. And so I see patterns. I see patterns of unhelpful behavior. And I bring this to people's attention, hoping that they want to do something about it. But a lot of times people don't see it, they lack awareness. And this is why they continue to repeat these same patterns. And so, what do you do when you tell people that a certain course of action, if continued, is going to derail the relationship? It's going to upset the bond, and they continue to do it. That lets you know that they don't care about you, they don't value your opinion, they don't trust you, and they feel as though you're overreacting, being overly sensitive, you're basically just not to be trusted. So what you have to do in that situation is you have to distance yourself, give them time to really see how their behavior has impacted just relationships in general. It's only when people have suffered a loss are they motivated to change. And that's the reality. If you continue to co-sign their poor behavior with your presence, they won't be motivated to change. And like I said, in some cases, when you're dealing with narcissistic or emotionally immature parents, you have to go no contact because You realize that your feelings will never be heard, they will never be validated, they will never be supported. And so you have to begin the work of supporting yourself. You have to love yourself and reparent yourself. In the absence of healthy caregivers, you have to become the caregiver that you always wanted. And a lot of us are waking up to this fact. Is it a hard process? Yes. It's very, it's very painful. I'm not even going to sugarcoat it. It's very painful. It's very disappointing. You're going to wake up some days crying. You're going to wake up some days angry. You're going to cycle through the stages of grief. And let yourself grieve, because it is a loss. And the funny thing is that it's a complicated loss. It's complicated grief because it continues. It continues. They have such a thing as CPTSD, complex PTSD, and that's when you suffer post-traumatic stress as a result of a situation that is continuing to go on. That's what makes it complex, because it continues. And there's a lot of complex grief reactions that you will have as you cycle through the disappointment, the anger, and the frustration of not having a supportive caregiver and a supportive caretaker. You know, it's disappointing. It's disappointing. But you have to begin to love yourself enough to separate yourself from any space that does not celebrate, that does not elevate the person that you want to become. And once again, I keep on saying, is it easy? No, it's not easy. This is some real gut-wrenching work that you're going to have to do. But I guarantee you that you will have a whole newfound respect for your ability to recover, your ability to love yourself, your ability to care for yourself in the absence of loving parents. And my thing is this: I used to think that I was loved. I now realize that when you tell somebody that something bothers you and they continue to do it, they don't love you, they don't respect you. That's not love to me. What that is manipulation. A lot of times, you know something, growing up, love became a form of manipulation. People went out there, they spent your money, they did you dirty, but then came back and said, baby, I love you, but I love you. And you're just like, wait a minute. Your words are contradicting your actions. You know, your words do not match your actions. Your words do not correspond to your actions. How could you say that you love me, but yet and still you do things that hurt me? You do things that undermine my trust in you. You know, can you have love when you don't trust the person? I realize the answer to that is yes, you can have love for someone. But you also have to learn how to distance yourself, because you can also love people from a distance. I used to think that you can't have love if you don't have trust. I revised that opinion. I realized that you can have love. You can definitely have love for a person, most definitely. But at the same time, you realize that, for one, they don't have the capacity to respect your love. That's the thing. They don't have the capacity to respect your love. They don't have the capacity to hold your love. A lot of people won't let themselves be loved. They struggle with letting themselves be loved. Additionally, a lot of people struggle with guilt and shame. My father, he has immense guilt and shame. I remember one time trying to reconnect with him, and he gave me this eye. Like, he looked at me like really like with this eye, almost like a jealousy was present and a suspicion. And I realized that that was his stuff. I was ready to move forward. I was ready to let go of the past, but he couldn't let go of the past. He couldn't forgive himself enough to allow me to love him. His guilt stood in the way of reconciliation. And so I had to realize, okay, that's his stuff. A lot of times parents, their guilt and their shame, they know how they treated you was terrible. But rather than acknowledge it and begin the healing work, they rather just either dismiss, disregard, or just blame you and project their own negative emotions onto you. And so at that moment, you have to distance yourself. You have to distance yourself from that situation. And the truth is, a lot of people can move forward. They can let go of the past. They can let bygones be bygones, right? But it's hard to let go of the past when the behavior is still present. When you say, okay, I forgive you for that offense, I forgive you for that action, but yet the action continues to happen over and over and over and over again. You continue to violate somebody's boundaries. You continue to verbally abuse them. You continue to talk down to them. You continue to hurt them. Okay, wait a minute. I don't see any behavior change happening here. And so what I see is these empty apologies. I see that. But I don't see any significant behavior change that lets me know that you're a safe space. And so at that moment, you have to begin to prioritize your own safety by distancing yourself. Therapeutic distancing is not a punishment, but rather it's an act of self-love. That's the thing. Please, if you take nothing away from this video, take that. Therapeutic distance is not punishment. What it is, it's an act of self-love and self-preservation. You have to take care of yourself because it's obvious that your caretakers and the people assigned with the responsibility to love you don't love you in a way that keeps you safe, that makes you feel secure. And so you're like, okay, I see that. I have come to terms with it. I have made peace with it. And now I'm taking the necessary steps to ensure my own safety. And that's important. That's important because continuing to allow other people to disrespect you and continuing to allow other people to hurt you only prolongs your healing. And it also results in resentment, hostility, anger, and also self-abuse and self-destruction. You know? A lot of people beat themselves up over the ways that they allowed other people to hurt them. You know, I think that in your 30s and 40s, you begin to really reflect on your experiences that you gained in your 20s, and you realize that you stayed too long in a lot of toxic situations and a lot of hurtful situations because of, for one, how you were raised, and for two, you got this message that somehow love requires you to tolerate abuse. Love requires you to stay in situations that harm you. And so, no. Anytime you are in a space, I don't care if it's with relatives, with friends, co-workers, your job, anytime you're in a space where people do not respect you, where they don't value your contributions, where they do not work to uplift you and celebrate you and help you evolve and support your journey and your evolution and your growth, any space that doesn't do that, you have to remove yourself from that space immediately. Don't wait. You know, don't walk, run. Because the longer you stay in that space, the more, for one, you're going to experience anger, resentment. You're also going to be very, very, insecure in your abilities and your competencies. These spaces at times can definitely jeopardize your confidence, and they can undermine your confidence and your good feelings. And so you have to remove yourself from these spaces immediately, because self-preservation is key. You have greatness in you. And I realize that about myself. I have such greatness inside me, but I have one thing I have done wrong. One thing I have done wrong is stay too long in spaces that are not good for me. I've stayed too long in these spaces. And now that I have an awareness of that, that's a pattern, you know? staying too long in relationships. I've stayed in toxic relationships because I love the person and I thought my love could heal and change them and we can grow together. No, no. I stay too long in toxic work environments because I thought that, I could make a difference and I could do something here and I could no. I stay too long with certain family members and certain friendships because I thought that this is what love does. Love weathers the storms. Love keeps on trying. But you know something? When is love going to start loving me? When is love going to start loving me enough to actually change? Because that's my love language, change. Love me enough to change the behavior that jeopardizes connection. If you don't love me enough to do that, if you don't love yourself enough to do that, it's not going to work. And that's another thing. If a person doesn't genuinely love themselves enough, they can never, never for one love you, and they can never appreciate the love that you offer them. And that's the truth. A lot of times we're loving our family members, we're loving our relatives, we're loving them, We love our loved ones, but our loved ones don't love themselves. And so what we're doing is we're pouring into a bottomless pit. We're pouring into a container that has numerous holes, numerous leaks. And they don't want to plug the leaks. They don't want to plug the holes. They want to continue to be broken and punctured and ruptured. They want to continue to live like that. And the reason why they want to continue to live like that is because there's a payoff. The truth of the matter is this. A lot of people enjoy their dysfunction because there's a payoff. For some, it gets them attention. They've lived their lives feeling invisible and ignored, and being broken and being a broke down mess gives them attention. So they want to keep doing that, And quite frankly, the longer you attend to that brokenness and the longer you co-sign it, the more you basically enable that behavior to continue. And I'm done co-signing poor behavior. I'm done. Y'all can have it. I refuse. And so you definitely have to refuse co-signing people's dysfunction. You have to. Because as long as you continue to co-sign their dysfunction, you enable the behavior to continue. And that's when you have to engage in therapeutic distance. You have to distance yourself from the drama, from the rage spirals, from the destructive loops and the negative loops and the just, they could have it. Because you have to take care of yourself. There are too many young people nowadays having strokes and heart attacks because of all the stress that they tolerate and endure at the hands of people that are supposed to love them and supposed to be a protective factor from all these things. Your family is supposed to be a protective factor that shields you from all these ailments. But if they're the ones that are causing these ailments, they are a risk factor, and you have to distance yourself for your own health and your own well-being. And that's what you have to do. Now, this does not mean that later on down the line there won't be an opportunity for reconciliation. Hopefully, the space will be productive and used as such to reflect and gain awareness, hopefully. You hope. But if not, there can be no reconciliation without behavior change. They can't. As long as people want to continue to do the same things that jeopardize relationship, that interfere with genuine connection, that undermine trust, you have to separate. And so all my people out there, all my viewers and listeners, please know that if you have anyone in your life, I don't care if they are your family, your friends, co-workers, employers, anyone in your life who is threatening your mental health, your emotional health, your spiritual health, your physical health, you have to disconnect immediately. Immediately, because you deserve to be happy. You deserve all the love that you're trying to give to them. You deserve that love. So give that love to yourself and blossom, because you will blossom. Once you stop enabling poor behavior, once you stop investing in the drama circles, you will start to see your life improve. You will start to see your feelings improve. You will start to experience joy beyond the grief. Eventually, the grief definitely will happen, but no creation is without its destruction. No creation is without its destruction. So you realize that, for one, you're breaking down, but you're also breaking through. So please give yourself that gift. Use therapeutic distance for anyone who cannot respect the person that you're becoming. Thank y'all for listening. Peace.